Hey, welcome back to VexHexGames, everybody. I know that I was off for a couple weeks because I was away on vacation, but now I'm back, and I figured what better video to make today than something where I talk about all of my likes and dislikes for one of my favorite series ever, Dragon Age. So I'm thinking that I might do a separate video where I review all of the companions from the entire series, even including Awakening, if you guys want. But this video is mostly going to be about the other elements that I like and dislike, although I will touch on a few companions and my feelings about them because it's kind of hard not to. So I figured it would probably be best if I break this video down by focusing on each one of the games, talking about the likes first and then the dislikes. I'm probably not going to talk about Awakening in this video just because I have actually never finished Awakening. It's the one Dragon Age game that I have been unable to complete, and part of the reason for that is because no matter what I try to do, at some point in Awakening, the game will crash and I won't be able to continue playing the game. It just completely shuts down. It doesn't let me continue on, even no matter how many times I restart, uninstall it, just disable it. Nothing lets me get past the same 3 parts in Awakening. So I have not been able to get very far in that game, so my knowledge of that game just from playing it is very limited. But I will be talking about the other 3 games at length. So, let's start in with the very first one, Dragon Age Origins. So, one of my favorite things right off the bat that I love about Dragon Age Origins are the dialogue choices and the flow. The sass from this game is just legendary. I really like the choices that the creators and the authors made when they were writing the scripts for how things were going to be chosen and how the different routes could go. It's one of the things that I think stands out the most, especially compared to other RPG games where you don't necessarily have nearly half as many options that you can choose from when not only making choices in gameplay, but also choices in dialogue. Another thing that I love about Dragon Age Origins is the world-building lore. We're really given a great deal of insight in the first game into elements of Antiva, into elements of Tevinter. Definitely Ferelden, obviously, that's where the whole first game takes place, but you start to see all of these little pieces of these other areas of the continent that all start to mesh together to give you a sense of how the overall world looks and acts and feels, and it's very genuine and it's very neat. Although it must be said that the lore occasionally contradicts itself across all 3 games in a way that makes me wonder if the writers actually logged everything from one development team to another. I think probably not, because there are some things that do get confusing or lost in translation from one game to another, but overall the world building lore tries to stay true to its course, and it's something that I really appreciate as an author, but also as, just a game player. I like in Dragon Age Origins how the decisions actually affect companions. So the choices that your warden makes causes your companions to either like you or dislike you in a meaningful way. If they dislike you, then they might betray you, like Zevran. Or if you poison or harm the Urn of Sacred Ashes, then Liliana attacks you. The things you do genuinely make a difference. Whereas in some of the other games, it doesn't matter. In DA2 or Inquisition, if a companion has negative 50 points, they're still going to fight alongside you and be with you. They're not going to leave your party. They're just kind of stuck with you. And their dialogue choices with you won't necessarily make a huge impact if they have negative 50 points. So it doesn't really feel as meaningful in the other games as it does in the first game. Plus, something that really stands out to me too is that in the first game you have cakes and then companion gifts. And both of these are really impactful in building those companion connections, in building those friendships, those relationships with everybody in your party. The companion gifts, they always matter to your companions. They have true, genuine significance to those characters. They're objects that your companions are just so overwhelmed to be receiving or, to be finding again. And it's just so heartwarming and it's so deep and it just really resonates with you versus some of the gifts that you might be able to give in other games that are more blasé and boring. I wish that they did not do away with cakes in the later games because, there's something to be said where if somebody gives me a lot of treats and fun, cute little pastry things, obviously I'm going to like them a lot more. So I think the idea of having cakes in the first game made a lot of sense in real life, but also it was a great way to raise friendship levels with companions early on so you could start unlocking more of your companion quests rather than having to wait until mid or late game to be able to start some of those quests. Something else that I really liked in Dragon Age Origins was the dog. You have to talk about dog. I love the Mabari companion. One of my favorite things with the dog is how he pees on something in every area. It was just a really fun way to tie in this specific companion with the map. I love all of the interactions between your Mabari and all of your friends or rivals or however you want to describe your party companions. There's something to be said for how the dog interacts with all of your companions in just such a fun and lighthearted and engaging way. At first, Morrigan is very like grossed out and freaked out by the dog, but then he kind of grows on her over time. Or Sten has that like really deep, meaningful, barking conversation with the dog, and it's a lot of fun not only having an animal companion in your party, but also having your other like human, dwarf, kunari, elf companions react and grow with the dog as well, to the point where your Mabari really grows on them and becomes like a meaningful part of your found family trope, which is just so much fun. It's really a lot of fun, and I'm genuinely upset that they made the dog just a summon in Dragon Age 2 and that there's no dog companion at all in Inquisition. Another thing that I really like about Dragon Age Origins is the Blight and the general plotline of the first game, especially with relation to the Grey Wardens and the Blight and how it all affects not only Ferelden but the main world. I like it. When it comes to the Grey Wardens, again, I really like how basic their concept is. They're defenders of the world, they protect people from Darkspawn, but from what I remember about them, they try to stay in their lane for the most part, not get too involved with like the petty politics of Ferelden. You know, they're not like the Orlesians, where they're going to manipulate and go undercover and figure out all of the secret stuff. They're not assassins, they're just like your stereotypical paladin character. They're just out there trying to do heroic deeds and save the world and keep to their morals and all of this stuff. And they also don't come across as cop-esque as I thought that they would have. Another thing that I really like is the camp setting and the ability to interact with all of the companions there at camp. I think that that adds a lot to the game. It's a centralized location where you can go and build your connections with all of your companions and really get to understand them, their story, their background, and their quests in kind of a simplified way. Sure, you have like the whole general plot and the fear of the Blight and all of this stuff looming over your characters, but the camp setting always feels like a nice homey little space where you and your party can just kind of chill, regroup, rethink, re-strategize, and it's just a nice breather in a game that is so heavily focused on plot and saving the world and everything with that. It's nice just to be able to chill, because there are some fun and cutesy moments that do happen in camp. So I think having that element in a game like this is not only a mandatory requirement, but it's also a really fun and engaging way to immerse the players in understanding the companion stories and to make it fun. I have to say that the opening theme music for Dragon Age Origins is legendary. It's a song that just kind of sticks with you. So even if you don't play the game for a period of 10 years like I did, as soon as you hear that, it brings back a really deep sense of nostalgia, and it's really nice. I also like and appreciate how the series as a whole tackles romance. You've got gay, lesbian, pansexual, bisexual, asexual, and demisexual characters. You can form a poly relationship in some of the games if you play your cards right. I'm not sure about Dragon Age 2. I know you can sleep with Zevran while romancing others, but there could be more leniency there because it's Zevran, which is fair. I don't know. But you also have powerful trans characters. Although I really hope that in Dragon Age 4 they give us a companion who's trans for more inclusivity and spotlight, rather than just having like NPCs that we either don't see, like Mavorus Talani, or that are just kind of here and there occasionally for plot and for character storylines that really could be built up more, like Krem. I also like how, even though everybody always talks about like the lovemaking scenes in Dragon Age because they're just, you know, they're their own shtick, I think it's really important that they don't have those kind of like sexualized scenes with every companion, that there are companions who you can't sleep with or who you don't sleep with on screen, who just keep kind of like a chaste relationship about them. I think that that's important to show as well, along with all of your very sexually active characters. So there's a nice balance of representation and of covering all different like romantic relationship types. There are also a lot of characters in Dragon Age that you can sleep with without having any kind of romantic relationship attached to them, and I think that that's also very important and meaningful, because we do live in a society where sex is either expected or shamed, or expected and shamed. So I think covering all of these basics for a game that's this old was not necessarily revolutionary, but I think it was incredibly important for a lot of gamers, especially young gamers who are part of, say, the queer community like me, to be introduced to, so that way, you know, it's a better way to get to kind of know yourself by exploring different ideas and different avenues in a game like this, and understanding what it is that you're looking for and that what you're not looking for. I don't know, there's just something about it that I really like, and I really appreciate that the team for Dragon Age Origins did through BioWare. Alright, let's move on to Dragon Age 2. Now, a lot of people hate Dragon Age 2, and I understand. A lot of people say that it's the weakest game of the series out of the three. They hate that you don't have a whole lot of travel. They're very against the idea that you basically stay in Kirkwall for the whole game. They don't like the fact that it's divided into 3 acts rather than kind of a longer arc narrative. I understand a lot of the reasons why people dislike Dragon Age 2, so let me just say that right off the bat. However, a lot of the reasons why other people don't like Dragon Age 2 are the reasons why I love this game, and it is arguably my favorite Dragon Age game in the entire series. One of the things that I love about Dragon Age 2 is the homey feel to the game. I genuinely got invested not only in the plot of the game, but in every single companion, their stories, their interactions, the life that they brought to the game. I loved how personal the game felt. A lot of people didn't like the game because you couldn't travel. I love that. I love that I was in Kirkwall to really understand all of the mechanics and the political elements of this one city. I think Dragon Age 2 took the idea of a small town and flipped it so that way it was way more romanticized and way more we're all stuck in the sewers together kind of idea. How can we as a city change? And then there are all these conversations that happen in the game about how to change Kirkwall, about how things should be, about how things can change, what's right, what's wrong, should the Chantry exist, should the Chantry not exist, the class divide between the poor and the rich. There's just so many elements in Kirkwall itself that are real and that felt genuine. Dragon Age Origins tries to throw in a lot of, real world ideas. It hits all of the political narratives, it hits all of the class struggles, it hits all of that. But at the same time, you're also fighting all of these crazy creatures. You have just this outlandish overall plot idea. You're dealing with the Blight, you're a Grey Warden, you drank Darkspawn blood. Like, there's a lot of just crazy fictional elements to Dragon Age Origins that kind of balance out a lot of the political, deep, real world conversations, whereas Dragon Age 2 takes a lot of that stuff out. You don't fight a whole lot of creatures in Dragon Age 2, whereas you do fight a lot of people. There are a lot of conversations that happen in Dragon Age 2 about society and about politics and things like that. Now granted, they still happen in Dragon Age 1, but Dragon Age 2, you're not focused on the entire world. You're not focused on saving the world. You're focused on just how can your ragtag team of friends that you've picked up along the way, how can they survive and how can they make it through this one town and its journey? And that's what you're looking at. Dragon Age 2 it takes the found family trope and I think it hits it better than some of the other games because you're not focusing on saving the world or some overarching thing. You're just focused on surviving. You're focused on the idea of staying safe. You're focused on the idea of protecting others, of trying to avenge your family's deaths or trying to answer questions that have to do with basic fate things. Like, it's very centralized and very focused and streamlined in a much smaller way. And that's one of the reasons why I really like the game a lot more. One of the things that I really like too about Dragon Age 2, and this isn't something that people often talk about a lot publicly, I think because of all the stigmas with it, but Dragon Age 2 is an amazing starting point for fanfic authors of the entire Dragon Age series. Because it focuses again on all of the interpersonal connections that Hawke builds throughout the game between the 3 acts with all of their companions. And it's so focused on those interpersonal connections that it really forms a starting point for anybody who's looking to get into writing about other characters and to continuing the narrative. I always found that it's a really good place to start. That the character designs are solid, that the story is solid, and that the relationships are already there. So it gives you a steady foundation to build upon, whereas in a lot of mainstream series where you could have a lot of fanfic authors trying to write for it, either the characters are being queer-baited, or they don't have strong backgrounds, or they end in tragedy, and, then you have to completely change the ending. Dragon Age 2, canon-wise, is really good foundation for fanfiction. Because all of the characters can live at the end. And then it's up to fanfic authors to kind of continue their story, because we don't see a lot of them in Dragon Age Inquisition, which I'll get to in a little bit. All 3 Dragon Age games, like I talked about earlier, emphasize this disparity between the upper class and the lower class. The impoverished, the poor, the destitute, and everybody who's kind of flowing through life living off their gold. But Dragon Age 2 especially hits it because of the physical geography in the game, in Kirkwall, that you see. Hightown is very classy, it's very light, it's very clean, it's very organized. It's easy to travel through. You know where you're going. Whereas Darktown is dingy. It's literally dark in the game. It's harder to find things. All of the NPCs that are in the background, you hear their suffering in the ambient dialogue as you're traveling through, whereas the people in Hightown are just trying to sell stuff. They're having a grand old time. But you hear it and you feel it when you're in Darktown, this class divide. And I think that was really cool from a game creation standpoint, because they didn't have to do that. I don't think they had to have put as much effort in showing that in the areas, but they did. And that was something that I really picked up on. One of the things that I love about Dragon Age Inquisition are the number of dragon fights. Even though they become a bit repetitive, I always enjoyed finding a new high dragon because their difficulty seemed to verge on impossible at times and presented an actual challenge, whereas for other parts of the game I kind of felt like I was coasting through and not having too much trouble at all. The high dragon fights were really awesome and they were really cool. I really like their designs, and I like that for the first time in what feels like the entire series, they finally had a game that showed dragons to fit the title of Dragon Age. Dragon Age Inquisition, okay, forget Solus and his whole shtick, but everything other than Solus-wise, Dragon Age Inquisition does do a really good job of setting up for Dragon Age 4 if they play their cards right. Obviously, Dragon Age 4 is called Dreadwolf, and I'll get to that in a bit, but I really do think a lot of the decisions and choices that the game creators made in Inquisition will lead up to Dragon Age 4 in a satisfying way. And I think by introducing the Iron Bull, by having a Qunari companion, they really hit the mark with that. Another element of Dragon Age Inquisition that I love are the Chargers. I wish that there was more with them. I wish that we had been able to interact with them more. I wish that we had been able to take them on missions with us. I wish that Krem maybe could have been a companion option, or like that he could have come in to fight alongside you at certain points, more so. I wish the Chargers, I wish we knew more about them. I know that there's the cutscene where Iron Bull introduces your Inquisitor to all of them, and it's really cool, but I wish that we had gotten the opportunity to spend more time with them, to talk to them more, to interact with them more, maybe to even do quests for them. I don't know, I just wish that we saw more into their lives, because I think they were one element that could have been utilized a lot more. I like the hint at Alistair's elf background. I really like that. I liked the idea that Alistair is half human, half elf. That's one of my personal headcanons that I totally agree with, that I saw in Dragon Age Inquisition, and I'm like, you know what, that makes sense. I wish we saw more of that. I wish that was alluded to more. Maybe they just kind of wanted to sprinkle it on a little bit, and then they're going to really reveal it truly in Dragon Age 4. But I like the little hint into that, because it makes you think. It makes you think of all of the possibilities, or maybe ramifications, if you see it as a negative thing, for what could happen moving forward with Alistair, with his bloodline, with the next heir to Ferelden, all of that cool stuff. But I love that. I think that was really neat. I like the idea of building up for travel into Winter for Dragon Age 4 that was introduced throughout all of Dragon Age Inquisition. I'm really banking on the fact that we're going to be into Winter. So I have jumping listed as one of my likes and dislikes for Dragon Age Inquisition. I always think it's fun when you can jump in a video game, because then you're inevitably going to fling yourself off a cliff to see if you take fall damage, and it's just fun to mash a button and see your character go up and down, because I'm a simple gal who has simple pleasures in life. But I also hate jumping, because then they're like, oh, well, if your character can jump, then we could put this one thing that's super ridiculously hard to collect all the way on top of this rock cliff mountain structure thing, and expect your character to somehow mountain goat their way up there to get it. And that was obnoxious. So I have jumping as both a like and a dislike, because it's just, I have mixed feelings about it. I liked in Inquisition the overabundance of nugs. I feel like nugs were great little creatures that you saw running around a little bit in Origins, especially in the deep roads. I like how abundant they are in Inquisition. I don't like that you can kill them. That was very upsetting to me. But I do like that they're just, all over the place, and that you can see them no matter where you go. I like how wild you can go with makeup for character customization in Inquisition. I wanted to make my one Qunari character. I've played through all of the Dragon Age games at least 4 times. So disclaimer, I should put that right out there. But at one point I made my Qunari character just over the top with makeup, and I kept them with that throughout my entire playthrough, and it was just so fun that by the end of the game they just grew on me. having them have like purple lipstick and these huge horns and just looking super boss. I was like, yeah, I love this. This is fantastic. So I like how over the top BioWare went with the character customization for that. It was fun. I loved being able to play as a Kunari in Inquisition. I think that was a true power move. The lack of Kunari backstory carried through the game was a super big letdown for me, though, and the same thing can be said for an elf background, which I'll get into later, but just the idea that you could play as a Kunari was awesome. I think 2 out of the 4 playthroughs for Inquisition, I was a Kunari. I think I was a Kunari chick and then a Kunari dude the second time, and I just loved it. I loved it. I want to be able to do that again in Dragon Age 4 with different Kunari background options, the way that Origins had different backgrounds for Elf and Dwarf. That's what I want for Dragon Age 4 for Kunari. Because, I also like the Astrarium star map puzzles. Those are fine. I didn't have a problem with those. I thought, they were a cute little puzzle aspect to the game. With a game that was as large as Inquisition, I think it would have been weird if you didn't have puzzles hidden throughout the game. So I thought the Astrariums were fine. Alright, here's something that I really liked about Inquisition that I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on. I really liked Morrigan as a mom. I wanted more of that. I also wanted more interactions between her and Leliana. Like, the entire first game had them as major companions, and they barely talk at all in Inquisition, and it's a huge letdown for fans of Origins. But I really liked being able to see Morrigan as a mom to Kieran. I loved being able to see her interact with him and, just see how she feels about being a mom without her completely, dumping all of her thoughts on you, which would have been out of character. I love that. I wish that we had seen more of that. I also wish that Morrigan and Alistair would have interacted at all for the brief time that he shows up in Inquisition, especially if your character or if your player had Alistair and Morrigan have the baby together at the end of Origins. I really wish that we had seen any kind of interaction at all between her and Leliana with Kieran, or her and Alistair, with or without Kieran, in the scene. One of the last things that I loved about Inquisition was the father and son relationship that's built over the game between Cole and Varric. And again, I'll probably talk about that in the companion video, but Cole and Varric, to me, had something really special going on in Inquisition. And I think for a series that often either overlooks parental problems or focuses on them from one extreme to another, I think their dynamic between Cole and Varric in Inquisition was really genuine, and it was really meaningful, and it was really important, not just, for fun side plot stuff, but also for their character growths individually. And that was a relationship in Inquisition that I thought worked extremely well as a family trope and in building up my experience in playing the game. It's something that definitely stood out to me, and that I really love a lot.